Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Soldering bin Alami. I'm from group number 1 and from section 9. So in this first part of the video, I will tell you about before doing the soldering process, explain the thing to the pay attention to. So first is melting the solder. So this is very first step in the entire web soldering process. It's a basic requirement of the process to melt the solder. So the soldering machine has solder contact in tank and the tank is heat to melt the solder. Appropriate temperature is reached to meet the right consistence so that process of soldering can be carried out further. So second is cleaning the components. This is very crucial step to be carried out and the component to be soldered are cleaning thoroughly in this step. If any outside layer are formed on the component, then they are removed. This is done by the process called fluxing. There are two main types of fluxing. First, corrosive high acidity, and non-corrosive. So third step is placement of the PCB board. After melting the solder and cleaning the component to be soldered, the printed circuit board is placed on the melted solder. The board is held with the metal clamps of the machine which ensure the firm position and placement of the PCB. Fourth is application solder. Now the PCB is placed properly. Molten solder is applied and is allowed to settle. Sufficient time is given to this step to allow the solder to settle into the joint completely and ensure no bump are formed. And last is cleaning. This is a final step in web soldering process. Any flux residue formed during the process are cleaned in these next steps. The circuit board is washed and cleaned with the help of deionized water and solvent. So this from the answer from the question. So the next part is. So the next question is state the equipment used to perform the soldering process. So the first equipment is a soldering station. So this is temperature setting differ which depend on the application. It is necessary to check the temperature before start the process. So the second equipment is a soldering iron. So this transfer thermal energy from the soldering iron to the back solder coaters creating solder joints. Next is iron holder. So this hold soldering iron in place when need in use. When not used. Next is solder. Solder is the filler material that match and joins the two material. Next is span. Span is primary purpose is to clean soldering iron tip for the best heat transfer. And clean solder tip can cause flux splatters, solder waste, or poor heat condition. So clean solder tip more often when swing PVC solder. What is used is as a weighting element. So last equipment is a solder sucker. So a solder sucker is a very useful tool to have. It will enable the solder to be removed from a joint so the component can be soldered from rework. So that's all part from me. Thank you very much.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Ain Farhana binti Mama Radwan. My matrix number is CE190038. Now, I would like to present Lab 4, which is the desoldering technique. In this Lab 4, I do questions number 3 and question number 4. Okay, for question number 3, describe the things to pay attention to when installing components on a PCB. Installing a component on a PCB is an important step that must be handled carefully to avoid mistakes. The first step is to ensure that our PCB after fabrication is in good condition so that there are no problems throughout the component's installation procedure. Then we must ensure that our tools such as solder, solder tip, solder sucker, and solder wire are in good condition. Next, need to ensure that the components we want to use on the PCB are correct and can be used as designed in the schematic. We also need to make sure that the component's location is correct while installing it to its track to avoid short circuit. Other than that, make sure that the component legs are in the correct place and they do not overlap from the rear track, so that to avoid component from damage and burn out when soldering the component on the PCB, we must avoid putting solder tip on the component legs for an extended period of time. Finally, we must ensure that the components we use are complete with no missing parts and the installations of the components on the PCB is proceeding smoothly. Okay, for question number 4, suppose you have installed the components on the PCB with reference to Lab 2 3D visualizations. Take the top view and bottom view to show the installations of the components for your circuit. So this is the 3D visualizations that our group already do. Okay, thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hi Doctor, my name is Alisa Shafika binti Zaidani and my batch number is D1004. So today I will present for the last question for this lab. So for the question is, are there any other alternative soldering technique besides manual soldering to assemble the components? So for the answer, wave soldering is an alternative soldering technique besides a manual solder to assemble all of the components that we use. Wave soldering is an automated form of hand soldering. Although the technique is somewhat different, the board is then placed on yet another conveyor belt once the PTH component has been installed. This time, the conveyor belt passes through a specialized oven where molten solder is poured over the board bottom. This will solder all of the pins on the bottom at the same time. For double-side PCB, this type of soldering is almost impossible since soldering the whole PCB sides will leave any delicate electronic components watchless. After this, the soldering procedure is completed. The PCB can go to final inspection, or it can return to the previous stage if additional parts of another side of the component are required. So that's all from us. Thank you.